Hello everyone, and welcome to this 2021 virtual edition of Hack in the Box Amsterdam. My name is Andrea. I am the Executive Director of CrowdFence, and I'm glad to be able to offer you the COMMSEC track also this year, also for this edition, as we already did several times in the past. It will be an amazing set of speeches, of talks. So I invite you to follow them and to really enjoy. But without much ado, let me start with my little talk about what CrowdFence does and how we think we can further shape the future zero-day market. So this is the agenda. We will see very briefly what is CrowdFence, and I will describe what is the zero-day market today, how we try to improve it, and what are the outcomes of our efforts, and then what's next. So, first of all, for those that don't know us yet, what is CrowdFence? CrowdFence is based in the UAE. We are independent. We are an offensive security research and development hub. We were designed from scratch in 2016, 2017 to serve both institutional customers and cybersecurity researchers. We try to apply the rules and the best practices and the risk management approaches that are normal in other fields of activity, but not so much in the development, procurement of 0 days for institutional purposes. We support only a few institutional customers, either directly or through trusted partners. And we are also developing other types of assets, which includes not only intelligence-grade zero-day exploits, but also specialized offensive and defensive tools. And we deliver off-the-shelf turnkey solutions, which are state-of-the-art. So what is the zero-day market today? From our perspective, of course. This is the commercial activity that happens around the development of sale of software exploits based on bugs, which are unknown to the vendors of the affected technologies. That's why the funny term zero-day was born, because zero means 0 days since the discovery of the bug, which means that the bug is undiscovered. These tools, because basically an exploit is a piece of software, can be used to remotely or locally target a device to tamper with its security model and to control it, in order usually to install some specific software to collect data, or in other cases which are not something that we work with, to sabotage or damage the intended target. In this case, we're talking about cyber weapons. I don't like this term, but it conveys the sense. So, of course, these kind of exploits are extremely powerful for institutional purposes because targets are unaware of their existence, and therefore defense against them is extremely complicated. But not all 0 days are born equal, so there is only a small subset of 0-day exploits which are sufficiently stealth, silent, reliable, don't generate artifacts, and therefore are highly valuable. And this is what we are dealing with. These assets have significantly high values on the market, in the range of hundreds of thousands to millions of US dollars. What are the main issues with the zero-day market? Well, historically, it developed in a wild way, so to speak. So it's unsafe, it's chaotic, and from a business point of view, is quite inefficient. This, of course, nowadays is a problem because these things are not, let me say, used for performing tests. It is at least 10 years that the major countries are using these tools to perform their own intelligence activities. And of course, because of this, these tools have become highly strategic. So the fact that the market is wild and researchers are often underpaid, while their efforts are getting exponentially more complicated over time, is a problem. Also, this creates a talent vacuum because underpaid researchers will seek more lucrative fields and do research as a second job or in their spare time, which is again hampering the overall usefulness and possibility of deploying good tools in the field. Also, from the demand side, which is, of course, the reason why this field exists, customers have no guarantees. They often rely on middlemen, intermediaries, and these figures usually don't bring any significant added value. There is also a high risk of scams, quality issues, and financial losses in the end. So what we do is basically manage these risks as it already happens in any other normal field, and to create we create a better environment for developing, maintaining, trading, and fielding these cyber tools, which in our opinion is beneficial to all the parties involved. So what we did in the past 4 years, as we say, we try to hack the zero-day market by changing the rules a little bit, introducing new ways of doing business. The speed of the evolution is astonishing, so we need to catch up and be always up to date. The variables involved are very complex because this is not just a technical issue. There are geopolitical, strategic, legal, financial, ethical, organizational issues that must be handled, and also very, very complex technical issues. So what was true 5 years ago now is prehistory. So what we do is we try to anticipate this evolution and to define it. There are many inefficiencies in this market. We set the goal to normalize, professionalize, and streamline the business by changing some of its rules. First of all, we protect researchers with fair contracts, and we offer them high payouts for their efforts. The second is we help to efficiently allocate economic resources and to minimize legal, operative, and reputational risks. And as you see, this is not technical, but is paramount in a complex and advanced scenario like the one we find ourselves nowadays. Also, we try to reduce unnecessary middlemen. Not all of them, but those that are not bringing added value, by building trust with researchers, integrators, and customers. And finally, we try to develop and to spread, by example, I would say, new best practices, standards, and methodologies to approach such a complex, multidimensional problem. So, for example, we launched publicly our bug bounty program, which is of course, a zero-day procurement program, starting in 2018 by offering overall 10 million USDs for certain classes of exploits. Then in 2019, we added more bounties and more classes of targets, and we raised the amount that we were offering to 15 million USD, which again we confirmed in 2020. And of course, this worked. So we could acquire very interesting and high quality assets. So in the end, by investing in a very careful way, but with enough resources, by the end of 2020, we put into this market a little bit more than 40 million USDs in less than 3 years. Of course, we are not dealing with a large number of researchers like some bug bounty platforms. We are dealing with a few tens of researchers on an average basis, and overall our network is probably made of no more than 300 sellers, which is more than enough, because this is probably a significant percentage of the top tier of researchers and developers in this field worldwide. Then we created a web-based application, which is the Vulnerability Research Hub. It's reasonably safe by design, and implements a zero-trust model with a good enough OPSEC, I would say, for all the participants. And basically this tool is used to submit research by the researchers, and then to discuss, test, evaluate, and negotiate eventually purchase. The acquisition and testing process is quite streamlined, and it goes through these 6 steps. But what I want to underline here is that only a few 0 days are good enough for institutional customers. The intelligence-grade 0 days funnel is very steep. So out of 100 submissions, on average, no more than 5 end up being deployed on the field. There is a lot of testing, evaluation, rewriting, fine-tuning, and also some submissions are by nature either too unnecessarily dangerous, which is something that we don't want to deal with, or not requested by the customer. So maybe the 0 day is good and the techniques used are fantastic, but there is simply no request for such a thing. Okay, but does it work? Of course, this is the first question, right? So yes, it does, but how? Well, first of all, we developed our own methodology for assessing risks related to each these assets. What you see here is a very, very old and very rough preliminary version of this framework for assessing the risk of this kind of tools. This is from January 2018. So as you can imagine now, this is much, much more complicated and includes many, many, many more variables. But the reason why I'm showing it to you is that I want to explain that without doing this kind of assessments, how can you handle these assets? It's extremely dangerous to deal with tools that can have a significant impact on their targets or even on society as a whole without knowing exactly what they are and what are the issues involved in their handling and in their fielding. And of course, based on this analysis, we will decide if and when and to whom we want to sell these kind of assets by having a key risk index for each one of them. That is, of course, updated over time because situations change and some of these variables are not fixed in time. Now here are some PRA statistics to show you why this approach, very structured approach, works. These are data from our 2019 catalog. Of the 125 intelligence-grade exploits that we managed in 2019, at the end of the year, 93% were still zero-day. And 89% were still available for sale, because as you can see from the chart, some were withdrawn, some were sold exclusively. So, in our opinion, this is a significant result, because by managing these assets in a proper way, by doing risk assessments, by doing monitoring, by doing vetting of the end users, and so on, we can, in the end, basically extend the lifespan of these assets significantly. And at the same time, minimizing the risks of spillovers or unintended side effects. So basically, the return on investment from the customer point of view on these assets, if managed in this way, can increase by 75 up to 200%, depending on the situation, on their application model, on what they are, and also on external variables. Still having a very high reliability and very, very low detectability. So the answer is it works. It definitely works. It works for all parties, which is also important. It doesn't only work for customers, it also works in a positive way for researchers. So what is the future? Of course, this is just our opinion, and I have to be brief, so this discussion could be much longer, but let's just try to highlight a few points. When we say we are trying to shape the future zero-day market, we say that we are trying to anticipate trends and to study and to monitor and to eventually have an impact in their development in order to optimize things. So for today, I just mentioned 3 of these trends. There are more. And again, as I said, this conversation should be much longer because the details and the variables involved are really a lot. But let's stick to these 3 points. The first one is that the age of the lone wolves is almost finished. For certain classes of targets, especially the most advanced classes of targets, for example, mobile devices. Finding valuable bugs and exploiting them in a reliable and actionable way is getting harder and harder for individual researchers, even if individual talents are still and will always be fundamental in this field. So research efforts must be handled by large groups. In some places, this is already happening with very good results, but it's not yet a standard, so to speak. The thing is, these groups must be managed in a professional way. And someone with dedicated know-how and experience must take care of all the non-technical issues, which are, as I said previously, legal, organizational, financial, related to project management, quality assurance, and so on. And these things are usually overlooked by these groups, which is creating inefficiencies and lowering the quality of their outputs. So what we are starting to do is to offer our expertise for the management of this kind of endeavors, of this kind of efforts, as a service to these groups by partnering with them and supporting them while they can focus on the technical side. Second thing, we believe there is a clear trend towards the convergence of offensive and defensive security activities. This was a taboo until not so long ago. And many people still think that these two areas should be separated as much as possible and avoid contacts as much as possible, except maybe for red teaming activities or some vanilla bug bounty programs, and only to a certain degree. Now, in our opinion, this is a waste of resources and opportunities for both sides. And we think that these two sides should talk much more and should collaborate whenever possible, of course. And for this reason, we already created defensive products. And this is just an example. Also dedicated to the corporate world, not necessarily to government customers. So defensive products that embed all our offensive know-how and vice versa. And it works. You get the best of both worlds. You get something that is really state-of-the-art because, of course, you can use both points of view and both skill sets to achieve the intended results. And we will push more towards this convergence in the next months or years because we really believe this is the future of security in general and of our field in particular. Last trend I wanted to highlight is in this field there are still no proper risk management processes in place, which we already discussed previously. And this is a big problem. People are trading highly dangerous assets, goods, without assessing their related risks, the liabilities, potential adverse impacts on society, and so on. And this is a dangerous way of doing business, especially when you're dealing with very sensitive stuff like this. There is no other field of human activities where people are trading goods which have an intrinsic level of risk of this degree without managing it. And also the lack of specific oversight or the lack of specific laws, except something related to dual-use technology export, which is definitely not enough to address all the issues at stake. Or maybe someone that is trying to use a CVSS score to assess the risk related to these assets, which is clearly not intended for this kind of overall assessment of the dangers of these assets. Basically, this is a recipe for disaster. And we think this should be avoided. It can be avoided by supporting the definition of a new market standard for assessing these risks in a systematic and comprehensive way, which means in a multidimensional way, not only from a technical perspective. And of course, we are more than glad to collaborate with researchers, integrators, and users, and also the general public on the definition of this risk assessment standard. In the next months, we will launch some initiatives towards this end because we think this is now past due. This is something that should already exist, and the fact that it doesn't is a problem. So, again, I will stop here. I leave you with COMMSEC track talks. Enjoy them, guys, and we are very proud to be sponsoring the COMMSEC track again because we really think that this is a useful way to support the community, which in the end is one of our main goals. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon in person, and stay safe and enjoy. Bye.